story when I was working as a event um, supervisor up at the Japanese Gardens.
I feel like you might have told me a story when you were up there about something creepy, man, but I can't put my finger on it, dude.
Like,
Fire away.
I worked up there for years, and it was a great gig because it was weekend work, and you got to see a lot of weddings and special events, and it was a Japanese setting, and the Japanese garden was, I think, almost 100 years old at the time that I was there, and I had heard reports of the place being haunted. Nothing ever, to my knowledge, it was all kind of just jokes and stuff like that, just kind of trying to scare new hires or guests, right? Nothing that I ever actually took into account as a serious um, like eyewitness. And there were three main buildings on the grounds. There was the um, event house, which was where the kitchen was. Then there was the lower house and the upper house. And the upper house up on the hill that overlooked the koi pond, I think that was called the Moon House or something. I'm kind of forgetting what the name of the house was, but it was up above the koi pond, and if you stood on the balcony, you can actually see like the moon rise and set um, on a clear night. And I'd been up there hundreds, if not, well, probably thousands of times after multiple years of being there, and I have closed up that place by myself, midnight, 1 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, and it's a Japanese garden that's nestled up against a hill, and you can get coyotes coming in there or raccoons. Occasionally, you would see like you came in there in the morning, you would see a dead koi fish on the ground because like animals would hop over the fence, and there'd be deer in there, right?
Oh yeah, dude, I bet you raccoons
Um,
are all about that shit, dude.
yeah, and it was a beautiful place. Never heard anything, never felt anything on my own. I felt completely comfortable, and I'd been up there walking around in the pitch black, right? And there was a big event, and I was up there alone, and it was about midnight, and I'm about to walk out of the main gates, which they were the Mon gates, these like giant doors that close, and you have to lock them a certain way. And then I look up and I realize that the upper house is still completely wide open. I'm like, fuck, I can't leave it open because there's each home is pretty empty, but the tatami mats in there are something like $10,000 a piece, right? And it's a um, there's not much in the house, but the house itself is very valuable, right? And the way that the upper house is set up is there's an outside deck, okay? And the outside deck has these like sliding glass um, doors. And then the inside of the house is also glass doors, right? So if you're um, out on the bridge and you're looking up, you can see not only the outside deck, but you can also see inside the house. Okay, because there's two like walls of glass, right? And they both have like they're both on like a sliding door. And I typically don't go inside the house. I typically just walk around the outside deck, and I could lock all the locks from the outside deck, right? There's no point in going inside the house because the inside of the house wasn't open to the public that day and is never open to the public. But I'm walking around the outside deck and I hear somebody inside the house. And I thought it was maybe one of like the workers or something, or maybe one of the guests, because periodically you had like guests sneak in and like make
What'd you
out.
hear?
I just heard footsteps,
Oh,
and I remember like going up there, like, is anybody in there? Hello, we're closing. Um, and there was also a caretaker whose family lived on site. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's the caretaker, but he typically never comes up. once the event is starting, unless it's like the garden would be on fire, he's in bed, right? Because we're our job is to take care of everything. And so I'm like, well, fuck, someone's back there. So I go around the back and enter through the back of the house. And I take off my shoes to walk on the tatami mats. You can't walk your shoes on. So I take off my shoes and I walk inside of like the main room of the house. And I'm standing in the very center and looking out on the outside deck that goes around the house. And then I'm also looking out towards the garden. Okay, that drops down the hill, and there's the koi pond and the moan gate and the lower house. And
How did you feel when you were standing there?
Kind of on edge, like I felt like somebody was like, I'm expecting to hear someone say like, oh no, I'm here, or it's just me, or I'm expecting to see somebody, and I'm trying to be very still because I heard footsteps inside the house, and then I hear, and you could see the outside deck, and I know what it's like to hear somebody walk around the house. I'm very familiar with how it sounds because I've been up there thousands of times, how it sounds when someone's walking around. And what I hear sounded like it sounded like footsteps walking around the outside of the deck, and I could hear it moving in front of me around the whole outside of the deck. And I immediately get spooked, that like hair on the back of your neck, and like you get goosebumps on your arm, and I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I get super creeped out. It's midnight, I'm the only person there, and the caretaker is down at the bottom in his house asleep, and I close up all the doors, and I'm not running, but I'm walking with like an urgency.